I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I know the problem, you've got just one policy. You do the opposite of what the Donald does. Don't know what you believe just because you got that TDS. You've tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS. Open the borders, let Mondani pick your pocket. Let the boys beat the girls, they got that extra rocket. A theology degree from Starbucks. You declare that America sucks. You got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS. If you're red, alright, let's get this party started. If you're left, you're blue and probably retarded. Like Rosie, De Niro, Jimmy Kimmel, Kathy Griffin. No kings, no kidding, we don't live in Great Britain. If J6 was the worst thing you've ever seen, Soros, burning Sadie's a mostly peaceful thing. Bring back the cartels, commute their crimes, sack the fact checkers like the New York Times. He's a Nazi, a fascist, a racist dictator who lets you say what you want to say.
Luke, I am your daddy.
You got that TDS. You've tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS. No matter what he says, you must be really dumb, 'cause you keep blaming Trump for your problems.
Side effects of Trump derangement syndrome may include violent behavior, delusions, nightmares, insomnia, irrational hatred, hopelessness, anxiety, depression, blue hair, tantrums, inability to form coherent speech, difficulty maintaining gainful employment, and verbal diarrhea.
There's no cure in sight.
SpaceX has made me a trillionaire. Isn't that neat, Mr. Sprinkles? You can say that again. Do you need something?
I hear you have $1 trillion.
Yes, I am a trillionaire, but I don't actually have $1 trillion.
I want it!
There's no money here.
Give it to me!
Hand over the trillion, paleface! Come back with my money!
Where are you going with our $1 trillion, comrade?
I keep telling you, there is no money.
He's hiding it!
I bet he swallowed it! Let's cut him open and take it!
I don't have $1 trillion. All that wealth is in my rocket company. He said the $1 trillion is in his rocket.
Let's go get it!
Let's start smashing stuff until we find the trillion!
Good thinking there, Mr. Sprinkles. Those people were scary, but luckily they were extremely stupid. Now let's go swim in the money vault. The $1 trillion is all mine.
your name on my phone.
See any wealth here to redistribute?
No, just red rocks.
Rats.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. I think quite possibly you're going to learn something new today that is actually old and practiced. You just might not have understood what it was, but it's something that's going on right now. And once I show you, you will be able to see it for exactly what it is. By the way, share this program right now. Today's program is brought to you by the fine folks at Goldco. It's an easy proposition. I'm just asking you to go to jovanlovesgold.com because now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver. I do this with my partners at Goldco. I published an article. You can read it, I think, on my locals, maybe on my X articles. I talked about how gold and silver relate to the IPO of SpaceX. You might want to read it. It's some good information to understand all of these different financial machinations that are going on. But look, folks, it begins with just going to jovanlovesgold.com, request your free gold and silver kit, and get information so you know what's up. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a new term you might not have known: entryism, otherwise known as the dirty break. Yeah, it's associated with the left, the dirty break. It's called entryism. I'm going to fill you in on it, what it is exactly, how it works, and how it's been done historically. And I'm going to show you the place where this technique, it is a technique, where this technique was used to take over a country. Little heads up real quick. As soon as this broadcast is over, I will be headed over to my locals. And I've taught you before where it came in this series I'm doing on Islam, the religion of peace. I'm going to give you the number one absolute historical fact of how Islam has absolutely zero to do with peace. So it's going to be a wild ride. I'll be doing that on my locals. You can get there by going to jovanhuttonpulitzer.locals.com. If you're on Rumble, you'll click the red button to join right after I get done with the broadcast. But folks, that is what we're going to do. Get yourself a couple of minutes to get ready to learn. You might want to take some notes. Share this program right now. We'll get started right after this.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother, wow. She tried to hit an agent with her car, oh no. Pop, motherfucker, now she's gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. You fuck around and find out it's what it is. Now you're gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
Warning, the following program has been rated Gilligaff and is intended for open-minded audiences. If the truth offends you, or if you are allergic to focused intensity, intellectual athleticism, or the occasional F-bomb or even irreverent humor, please switch off now. If your delicate sensibilities need to be worried about or addressed, might we recommend the Underwater Basket Weaving channel to you? Otherwise, sit back, enjoy the wisdom, insight, and wicked sense of humor.
Cut the crap. How many times a day do you want to say that to politicians, the elite, the loony liberals, the fake news media, and the gender-confused, emotional socialist snowflake crowd? Cut the crap is your secret weapon for fighting for our freedoms and our great republic. It all begins with a massive mental enema, freeing you from the toxic news and politically correct views, which constipate your consciousness with stinking thinking. Your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. He's known for calling out politicians and telling them to cut the crap. You've seen him on virtually every television network and listened to him on Coast to Coast Radio. And now he's here to help you learn to fight for America. Culture, race, and American politics. They all have one thing in common. They all need to cut the crap. Now, here's your host, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Okay, guys, it's time for a history lesson, an economics lesson, and a political lesson. And what we're going to be talking about is called the dirty break. How entryism undermines the foundation of the American constitutional republic. Many people might not have heard that term before, but it's actually something that is going on right now. You'll recognize it when you see it. I'm going to play you a few videos first, and then I'm going to actually give you the history of what it is and how it works. And then in the final part, I'm going to share with you what countries or parties have been taken over using this little known practice. It's something exceptionally serious. I'll kind of give you a top-level view. We'll start here.
Our candidates run as Democrats. We're on the Democratic Party ballot line. We contest the primaries. And when they're in the legislature, they're part of the Democratic Party caucus. But we don't agree with the way the Democratic Party establishment organizes or runs its party apparatus. And so we try to build independence by focusing on volunteer-led movement. We think that everyone should be able to be trained and to become someone who can participate in the political process. And we don't really think that Democratic Party campaigns in the establishment are run that way. And I think you really see that difference in the races like we're having tonight. And I think in terms of the agenda, there's a problem in the Democratic Party where they are funded by billionaire donors, and at the same time, they're trying to represent the working class. And in our opinion, you have to choose between the billionaire class and the working class. It's just impossible to satisfy all of them.
You might catch in that little bitty ditty, he's from New York City, by the way, this issue about classism. You're going to hear a lot about the billionaire class, and now you've got the trillionaire class. But what people don't realize is, number one, there's no such thing as a Democrat or a Republican. There's only the uniparty. The uniparty is all about power, greed, money, and protectionism. And what it does is it craps all over us. That's why my program's Cut the Crap, Culture, Race, and American Politics. In that crapping part, because we're all basically equally crapped on, an interesting thing happens. Some people work to fix it. Some people just break away from it and forget about it and just ignore it like it's not there. And some people can get really pissed off. But on the extreme edge of the pissed off is there are people that say, well, it's the system that's corrupt and it's not fair. We've got to make it fair. We've got to make it equal. You've heard all this stuff before. It is in that vacuum that is created by the glut of greed and power, which we're going through right now. It's just all it is. That something more insidious in the name of making it better for people pops up its head. It's truly, truly evil at its heart, but it is all designed under the cover of we'll take care of you. Let's drop in on one of these guys' meetings. Listen to the topics they discuss in their meetings.
And on that revolutionary horizon, want to perform abortions in a church, but before it's all said and done.
Did we hear that right?
And on that revolutionary horizon, want to perform abortions in a church, but before it's all said.
Abortions will be done in church. Now, you might think this is just rhetoric or play or whatever. Yeah, it's one of those things. What the frick?
And on that revolutionary horizon, want to perform abortions in a church, but before it's all said and done.
The only real difference between marriage and prostitution is the price and the duration of the contract.
We can fight for family abolition. We can imagine family abolition because we have seen Black women do it, because we have seen these indigenous communities do it.
But to me it is the institution of marriage can only exist alongside the criminalization of sex workers.
Children whose parents are unable to provide either housing, food, or safety are treated as if they have committed a crime. So kids themselves are treated as if they have committed a crime if they're not born into a family that can support them.
In addition to abolition of family policing, you argue for abolition of the family in general. And say that the institution of the family acts as part of the carceral system in the way that it reinforces children as property.
I think the left is constantly surprised at how few people are, ready for revolt, despite, the extremely dire conditions that we are in that keep becoming more and more dire every day.
Women and children are the most harmed by capitalism, but also women and children are the architects of their fate.
So when we talk about family abolition, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the abolition of that economic unit. For me, that liberatory horizon is to say it is a horizon in which kinship and care are, in which all of our material needs are taken care of by the collective.
Sex work, the criminalization of sex work is like the dark underbelly of the sanctified, reified, and legally enforced institution of exchanging your bodily autonomy and your sexuality for economic security. I don't think one can exist without the other.
Okay, you heard terms like collectivism. All of our needs are taken care of. Now, this is a main part of their platform, and that's the least radical part of it. Now, let me show you a leader, a politician, I wouldn't call him a leader, that is part of this, is key to this, is proof that it happens and just got elected inside one of the national parties.
What the purpose is about this entire project, it's not simply to raise class consciousness, but to win socialism. And obviously raising class consciousness is a critical part of that. But making sure that we have candidates that both understand that and are willing to put that forward at every which moment that they have, at every which opportunity that they're given. We have to continue to elect more socialists. And we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism. There are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right, or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment. And what I want to say is that it is critical that in the way that we organize, in the way that we set up our work and our priorities, that we do not leave any one issue for the other, that we do not meet a moment and only look at what people are ready for, but that we are doing both of these things in tandem. Because it is critical for us to both meet people where they're at and to also organize for what is correct and for what is right, and to ensure that over time we can bring people to that issue. The ramifications of victory here is the difference between life and death for so many of our brothers, sisters, and family beyond the binary across this borough of Queens. It's the difference between having cash bail anymore or not. It's the difference between having sex work be decriminalized and not. And with every battle that we fight as socialists, we need to remember what the stakes are and ground ourselves in them and why those stakes are important and critical to us as individuals.
Okay. Stay with me and stay with me till the end or you'll miss the whole damn point. You've got to have some focus of your attention on it to understand how this is done. Now, you remember me telling you, if I've told you a billion times, I've told you a billion times. The system, the apparatus, the party intentionally delivers chaos. The enemy of all of this is knowledge to understand what you're looking at and focus on how to keep it all together and make it better. Now, what they do is the upper system, as this infiltration begins to take place, what happens is they start throwing bombs about everything. Kleenex are racist. Why is toilet paper only white? It's the rich. Oh, you're homophobic. Oh, you're transphobic. Oh, you're bestiality phobic. Oh, you're pedophobic. Get what I'm saying? They give society thousands of things to worry about. When you look at it in the big picture, if a dude wants to cut off his dong, as long as he's an adult, if a dude wants to cut off his dong and play like he's a woman, that's not only his right, but it's none of our fucking business. It just means they're an idiot with mental health problems, and looking down, not saying a dong there, doesn't make them a woman. You know how you can prove it? Do you a little Silence of the Lamb, tuck it, look in the mirror. It'll look like a JJ. You're still not a woman. Cutting it off and making permanent doesn't make a change. Now, the reason they throw all this stuff in here is because they know most people can only think singular line tracks. Most people cannot, because we're emotional, we can't step back, look at the entire picture, understand what's going on, and understand how to pick your battles. So the reason both the right and the left, right, throw all these things at you is because one will trip your trigger, baby. Save the children. Save the whales. Save MS-13 gang members from being aborted. One of them, based upon your life experience, based upon what gets you going, will drive you to siding with them. Always under the theme, because they know inherently people go, I don't have enough money, I need help in my life is tough, I got to pay my bills, I need all this, costs are going up. They know they always have that theme. And so what they'll do is they'll find one for you to attach on by giving you a buffet of bullshit, always with that underlying thing, well, we'll make it better, we're brothers and sisters, we're all going to have more. It has never worked. It has never, ever worked. But in order for this to rise, it needs the vacuum tube broken. And that is where we are right now. This is what rises from the vapors. And it's catching on more than you could possibly imagine.
When we talk about democratic socialists, how are they viewed inside the Democratic Party?
Yeah, you know, you mentioned New York, you mentioned Vermont. Obviously, there's the D.C. mayor. We've seen it in Pennsylvania as well. The Democratic Socialists seem to be doing considerably better than they used to be, and they have the chance to knock off, in fact, Democratic incumbents in Congress. And part of the reason for that, why we're seeing these Democratic Socialists having such good chances or outright winning nominations, is take a look here. Net favorability among Dems. Democratic Socialists of America, look at that. A plus 17-point net favorability rating among Democrats. That is actually better. That is better than how congressional Democrats are viewed by Democrats at just plus 4 points. So no wonder that Democratic Socialists have such a good chance, because simply put, they are a better brand at this point than Democrats in Congress.
Among Democrats, it's interesting to see who they like more. All right, and you've used this number before. I always find this fascinating. When you compare socialism to capitalism, how are they doing right now?
Yeah, how are they doing right now among Democrats? You see this Democratic Socialist America more positive than congressional Democrats. And I'll tell you, take a look at the trend line, that favorable rating among Democrats on socialism and look at this. In 2010, they were about equal. 50% had a favorable view of socialism. 51% said the same about capitalism. But capitalism has absolutely fallen through the floor. Look at this. It's now just 42% of Democrats who have a favorable view of capitalism. Socialism, on the other hand, up like a rocket. Look at this. 2 in 3 Democrats have a favorable view of socialism. So socialism is on the rise among Democrats. Capitalism is on the decline among Democrats. And again, this is part of the longer-term trend in which we are seeing Democratic socialists doing considerably better among Democrats electing a mayor right here in New York City, for example.
And as we said, there are primaries next week with Democratic socialists, self-proclaimed, on the ballot. What are the prediction markets saying about how they may do?
Yeah, this to me is one of the more stunning trends, right, that I have seen in covering politics over the last 15, 16 years. And if you believe the prediction markets, it's not going to just stop suddenly. It may extend into next week, because just take a look at the chance that Democratic Socialists win in Dem primaries, House primaries here in New York. You go to New York 7th District, right? You got a Brooklyn Borough president who at this point looks like an underdog compared to a Democratic Socialist. And then you may get a Democratic incumbent in Northern Manhattan get knocked off. That's closer to a 50-50 race. But the bottom line is this. Next week in New York may be a very good one for Democratic Socialists. Mayor Mamdani endorsing them. His political star is rising, and he may bring a few Democratic Socialists along with him and put them in a Congress.
Okay, well, I showed you this, and yes, those people won. Now, if you're a conservative, answer in chat. Are you just disgusted with the GOP and Republicans? Yes or no? If you're a liberal, a Democrat, are you just fucking disgusted with how the Democrats are acting and what they're focused on? You get my point? It is about pissing everybody off at everything. So much chaos, so much fracture, it seems like you can't get out of it. All of it creates economic strain, which squeezes you in your home individually. And it's just from there, God help me. And then here come these people. We got to make it easier. You can't pay your bills. We all, there's trillionaires. There shouldn't be billionaires. There shouldn't be trillionaires. We need to get that money. We need to push it out to everybody. We need to make it better, and we need to make it easier. That is actually what's going on right now. And the way it's being done, and this is the way it's always been done, is it's called the dirty break. It's entryism, and it's designed to undermine the foundations of the countries it gets deployed in. I'm going to show you those in a minute. S2G109. Here, ready? Socialism is a form of government repugnant to the Republican form of government. We the people are guaranteed the U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. They are warring against the people. There you go. It's basically, you think you have no say right now as we the people and what's going on. You feel it. I know you feel it. You probably think it can't get any worse than this. Well, this is where it gets worse than this. Now, here's how this works. Entryism. This is where it's the infiltration of a political party by members of another group with the intention of subverting its policies or objectives. You formerly thought these guys were rhinos. You understood the term rhino, Republican in name only, but you did not understand it was a totalitarian operation. See, you just thought it was people like Massey want to piss off at Trump and I hate this and hate this. No, you got to understand, this is a tactic. You thought it was just Democrats at their core posing as Republicans. No, it is actually a tactic of political infiltration. that has been done, has been focused on, and happens. Now, I'm going to explain this to you. First, you need to understand how this dirty break works and how it's being used and how it's almost always been deployed is socialist. The Democrat Socialist America right now is what we're dealing with. It's the DSA. Now, they make no bones about telling you like it is. And I tell you, always the left will tell you what they're doing honestly. The right fucking lies to you, glad hands you, takes money from you, shakes your freaking hand, and swears they're your buddy going to protect you. It's bullshit. What they do is they basically use what they call a ballot access vehicle. They take their candidates who are not Democrats, they are socialists, but they give them the Democrat label, and they do this on the right too, okay? They do this on the right too. And what it is a way for them to get in the system, but they have no ideological alignment with them at all. Not at all. They just use the practical advantages of a system designed for two major parties. This is where the dirty break strategy comes in. As they have their infrastructure, they're working, they're getting funding from behind, they're getting funding internationally. They build their independent network outside. And then what they do is they begin to exploit the primaries. This is what's going on absolutely right now in full freaking gear swing. So they get their candidates to run while they, AOC, etc., what they're doing is they're actually exploiting the infrastructure of Democrat primaries, resources, brandings, etc. Now, this has evolved over time. This is a very, very sophisticated form of entryism. It's always positioned as being pragmatic organizing. But what it is designed specifically to do is to 100% erode our constitutional republic's core principles, period. They need it to go away. And the way they need it to do this is they kind of eke their ways into these parties. They eke their ways into these faction. We're about, federalism and limited government and constrained, enumerated power, separation of authorities. No, this is everything's going to come together. This at its heart is what a rhino really is. And a demo and a demon and everything else. This is how they do it. Now, this is called realignment. The official name is entryism. It's a realignment from within. Think getting a pelvic readjustment by your chiropractor from the inside. That's kind of how it works. When this was first measured as a trial run, it was very big 100 years ago. It just didn't take hold. It couldn't reach enough people. Okay? Gina says, give me one, give me two, give me a coupon. Anyway, you understand what I'm saying. They tested this out to see if they could support the mechanism. Could they support the underground money? Could they hide the money? Well, they did that with Bernie Sanders. Remember them talking about how much Bernie Sanders got donated, $10 at a time? That's how they floated it. Okay? Now, once they get in office, they'll caucus with the Democrats, meaning work with them quasi, but it's all about their own agenda. They have accountability to socialism, not to the party. Accountability only to socialism. Dozens and dozens and dozens of these people have now been elected to office. It's the fastest election of these people, putting them in even faster than when it happened over 100 years ago. This means accelerated. At its core, They want to build an extensive government that takes control over everything. That means the economy, social relations, and redistribution. This is why it kept on getting seeded. It's a seeding process. The seeding process needs the chaos and the pissed off dumb process at the same time. This is what's happening. These guys have won major seats. And now the Democratic Party process, which was different. We're talking Democrats of, just even 15 years ago. They were different. These guys have now lurked in this very slow process and learned the Democrat machine on top of it. So they've learned how, with Democrats, take over an entire red state. You need to focus on this. You just watched it happen in California. Optically, none of the parties are good anymore. Let's just admit it. But optically, Democrats stayed in power always by cheating the system, running the numbers, getting people checks, getting a hold of their ballots and getting them to vote. You saw it very prevalent in your face. It's the ballot, it's the paper with California. Lurking for a decade and a half have been these people that are the socialists that have been learning the Democrat tactics to basically stay or get in power and take over an entire state. That's what happened. Now, all of this is about undermining the government and undermining the consent of the people. Think about this. A Democrat has no problem with capitalism in the past because capitalism is what makes our country hum. This little bitty shift you've seen in the Democratic Party, which was this entryism, where they started teaching capitalism bad. It always comes from universities, by the way, is to set up for this shift that's coming, okay? In the past, everybody understood it was about our constitutional republic. It has always been the idea that our representatives are chosen by the people to serve the public interest, but they have totally limited powers, right? Article 4, Section 4 guarantees a Republican form of government. What they need is for that piece of our Constitution, aside from our Second Amendment, to fall. They need it to fall. Now, this is always cloaked with the signals, and it's only just signals, either liberalism or moderation or progressive. It's just they do signals. They just don't understand the apparatus that's working underneath. And what happens is, once they get enough people in power, having their own objective, folks, you should really think spy game. You should think hidden spies, whatever the case may be. What they begin to do inside our representative government, the way it is, they begin to explicitly force their own contracts for what should happen, what should be said, what should be approved, etc. Now, this is a revolution tactic to take over government. See, people tend to get misguided and think the first revolution is everybody getting in the streets and we're going to go to war with Black Lives Matter or Antifa or the snowflake crowds or any of that. No. This is why I've told you it's always been war. The war has been going on. But instead of taking on 300 million of us, they took on 7,000 lawmaking, policymaking positions. This is how it always happens. Now, when they can get enough of them in, forget about the separation of powers. Basically, it becomes only about narrow interest for the people. And this is how they keep the people subjugated. The number one weapon they use to get into power is to dominate where Americans vote the least. Let me give you an example. It always works the same way. You saw what happened in 2020. You now know by California how they do it. You can see it plain as day. But what did a lot of people say? Fuck it, I'm not voting again. My vote doesn't count anyway. This is what has been seeded. Now, when they can get enough people pissed off and thinking that, well, their ballots don't matter anyway, that's the first major planted seed. Where do people vote the least? Primaries. And what ends up happening is they end up sweeping the primaries. This is what James Madison warned in Federalist number 10. That's why it's worth going back to read it. This is what's being undone. So you get the erosion of federalism, which we have, and you get the erosion of limited government. All of these things start to expand, right? Now, the way they accomplish it is through sweeping economic regulations. I can tell you it's coming because of the IRS code where banks have to report every deposit over $600. Or 87,000 new IRS workers. See, you always thought that was about the Dems and bullshit. No, it is the enforcement arm of this mechanism. It's where they laid the stage. Now, once they can get those economic regulations in, then it becomes about universal programs. Wealth distribution. Where do they practice the universal programs and wealth distribution? They basically make you accept it in illegals first. Now, why do they do that? Well, see, it's kind of this fantasy idea. Well, that's not fair. I'm not getting money and whatever. You're not really cut that way just to steal other people's money or to think it's okay to go in people's bank account and give it to this guy. Even if you're a liberal, you're not necessarily wired that way because that's the way our country hasn't worked. So how do they get you to become wired that way? Well, the first thing they do, which if you now see it, they get tens of millions of people on that wealth redistribution system by the form of welfare and giving all the services they do to illegals. So you think the illegals only here for the vote? Hell no. See, they understand inherently that if they can get 20 plus, 30 plus, 40 million people on the take, right? And you've got a Social Security retirement that now gives you $600 a month, and you find out a fucking illegal gets about $4,500 a month, you eventually get pissed off. And what happens? Because you're worn down by it, you eventually say, well, that's not fair. I want some of that. That's not fair. What'd they just do? They just baited and switched you. Most people in their right minds know you don't rob from the rich to give to the poor. That's the socialism fantasy. It never works. But see, they've got to put it out in front of you. Well, why does an illegal get free housing? See, as an American paying taxes all this time, you should be taken care of. Or our first responders should be taken care of. Or our teachers should be taken care of. Or our military service members should be taken care of. They should get incredible health care. All of those did what? Got pushed to the bottom. And then you got this little picture of this undesirable who breaks the law to get here. And it's like the government bends over for him. No, it's the training wheels. Because they know you won't readily accept it as an American that at your core is red, white, and blue. But if they can convince you America is broken, and they can keep on flaunting this in front of you, and you're looking at all these illegals, laws don't apply to them, they're getting free college, they're making billions of dollars in the system, they're getting thousands upon thousands of dollars of check. Eventually, you make one simple change in your mind. And the change in your mind is, I want some of that. Now, some of the other mechanisms they do with this is they begin to raise property taxes. They make the cost of owning punitive. You paid for a house, you own it. Well, you don't pay your property tax, it's being taken over. Well, what happens in this property tax, the taxation part of it, is they keep raising it, keep raising it, keep raising it. That's making it punitive. On the other hand, they do things like, to protect the people, for everybody, they start putting in rent control, where the fair market value for rent should be $2,500 a month for something. That's probably the size of a closet, depending on the city. They make you pay it, but they come in other ones, you got to have a certain amount of rent control, which means that person doesn't pay any more than $250 a month. And you're going, I'm paying $2,500, but they only have to pay $250, and it's rent control. And they start forcing this on who? The owners of the properties. Well, what happens to these properties? Well, when they start putting rent control in the name of equity and taking care of everybody, the companies, the people, the families that own the building, two things. They can't keep the upkeep of the building safe and sound. Therefore, the city and state starts fining them incredible fines. They can't pay the fines. What does the city, state, or do? Take over the building. Or they can't pay. They can't make any money at it. And they themselves can't change their property taxes. Because, see, the property taxes are up here, but the rent control's down here. Now, what did they do with that? They did a redistribution of wealth and got a hold of the buildings, get a hold of the lands, get a hold of the companies. This is how every bit of it works. Now, when they get enough people in, they begin to write it into legislation under the guise of Democrats and also Republicans too, because they're vampires of the system's infrastructures. They're there to suck everything out of the infrastructure system. You can always begin to see they've got their fangs in when what happens? Zero political accountability. You see somebody from Somali suck $1 billion from the system and nothing happens to them. What happens is we, as Americans in a constitutional republic, we tend to lose faith. We tend to feel there are no fucking options. The Dem are rat bastards and the Republicans are bastard rats, but they're still the same thing. And when that happens, then here comes the deserve train. You're really a worker. You deserve more. This isn't fair. The system is rigged. Those guys shouldn't have all that money. You're the worker. You're why it's here. You deserve more. And finally, you say, fuck yeah, I can't take it anymore. This happens on every single level. This path that we are on is a perfected playbook. And what happens is because everything starts breeding so much chaos, and people who don't want to go that way, cities, states, government, they start suing. We can't let you do that. We can't let you do that. We can't let you do that. Because you have our checks and balances. In our checks and balances, the only mechanism we have to stop it is to sue. Our lawmakers sue this. You can't do this. You can't fucking do this in the state. You can't do this in the city. What is that designed to do? It overloads our judiciary. There are so many suits, so many claims, so many challenges that what should be separate, the judiciary from the separation of powers, that what happens? The government has to chime in to do relief, which further polarizes it. This is a challenge to our constitutional continuation. we stand a very strong chance of our Constitution not having continuity. Now, historically, where has this happened? Remember, I am teaching you, it's called entryism. You think it's just weirdo with whacked ideas. These are hired, highly trained assassins to rip apart party apparatuses. They don't give a fuck if you're left. They don't give a fuck if you're right. They just know, according to their philosophy, you're wrong, they're right. And so they can infiltrate the left because the left has progressively got taken over more. Why? Because if you're a staunch constitutional conservative, and the Republicans, it's going to be harder to take over, but they do get their people in. This is entryism. Where has entryism conquered before? Do you know where entryism has conquered before? I'll tell you that. I'll be right back.
Never give up. In the late 1990s, one man dared to dream bigger than the world was ready for. He saw the internet, then mostly words and hidden IP addresses, and asked a radical question. What if every barcode on every product could instantly connect you to a website? Scan Commerce was born. He and his team manually linked millions of books, records, tapes, and consumer products to the web. Their vision? Simply scan the code and, boom, you're on the site. The problem? Only 6% of the world had internet. No camera phones. No smartphones. So he invented the QCat, a device that literally gave computers eyes. People mocked it. They ridiculed it. Mark Cuban called it the worst invention ever. But the numbers didn't lie. QCat and Q-codes became the fastest adopted computer peripheral in history to reach 10% U.S. market penetration. Telephones, 25 years. Electricity, 30 years. Radio, 7 years. TV, 11 years. Internet, 9 years. QCat did it in just 30 days. It hit 1 million users in 30 days and 2.4 million in 60 days, faster than Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Airbnb ever dreamed of. Then disaster struck. The dot-com crash. 9/11. Markets froze. Capital died. The dream looked dead. But the inventor? He refused to quit. Jovan Hutton Pulitzer kept fighting. He nurtured those patents through the storm. He ignored the haters, the doubters, and the crash. Today, that dumb idea is the global standard and one of the most successful patent portfolios of the internet age. It's built into 21 billion mobile and wireless devices worldwide. It powers 2.7 billion scans every single day, over 1 trillion scans a year. And these scans, from one rogue idea, generate over $15 billion annually. The crazy dream that everyone laughed at now connects the world. That is the power of never giving up. It doesn't matter if they call your idea stupid. It doesn't matter if the market crashes. It doesn't matter if the world tries to bury you. What matters is that you refuse to stay buried. Your dream might be ridiculed today, but if you nurture it, protect it, and fight for it, it just might change the world tomorrow. So chase that dream. Take the shots. Fall down 7 times. Get up 8. Because the only thing standing between you and history is the decision to never give up. Now go build it. The world is waiting.
For me, I'm wired not to give up. I'm wired to be thorough. For America to survive, it has to be about never give up. But you must keep your eye on the ball, and you must understand the big picture. The system is designed to obfuscate the picture by thousands of rats and squirrels to chase. Now, what I've been teaching you about, you may not have heard the term before. Is my audio bad? Hang on. Hold on. Somebody's saying audio. Yeah, I don't know why that changed.
I have no idea why that happened. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you guys. See, I look at your chat and I know. Thank you so very much for correcting that. Anyway, the system, I'm never give up. I love our country. I love our freedoms, the idea of our freedoms, and I love that we're basically a country. If you can dream it, you can do it. I am the child of a heroin addicted prostitute with a criminal history who died of AIDS. I started out in government housing, but that does not define who you are or where you get in life. That is, to me, the American dream. I think I might cherish it more because I'm first generation American than most people. But all of this is a tactic. Every bit of it, all this stuff, that's how I say it, just all this stuff are tactics. Hammer you, hammer you, hammer you, hammer you. The right hammers you on the values you care about. The left hammers their people about the values they care about. And while everybody's bitching and moaning and bickering and fighting, the assassins to kill our nation infiltrate in, and then they flip the switch. Now, you may not have heard the term entryism, but it is referred to as the dirty break. And it basically is the tactic, and maybe you understand it, right? You tend to think revolutions occur in the streets with people. They have historically, but that's not how they begin, and it's not how the takeover happens. They focus on the political and judicial apparatus. So instead of fighting 300 million of us, or whatever the real number is, it might even be less, they target the 7,000 lawmakers and politicians. This is what entryism is. It's an infiltration of political parties by members of another group with the intention of subverting policies and objectives. In many ways, the Democrats are so ignorant. They'll take, oh, we won Mondani, the Democrats won. No, you didn't. You just sold your future. Now, this tactic, you tend to think of things as communism or Marxism or socialism or whatever, but you got to understand how they really get in. Where it was perfected was in 1917. The Bolsheviks in Russia. This is the single most successful example. What happened is the Bolsheviks, Lenin's faction, they operated as a radical minority within the broader Russian Social Democrat Labor Party. Now, what they did is they used the system. They used the party structures, the newspapers, the alliances. Think today, mailing lists, donors, media allies. They took over and learned their apparatus. Now, what happened is, by getting in there, they gradually took over the Workers' Council. That was the key Soviet part of it. And in October of 1917, they executed a coup against the provisional government. This is what began this tactic of warfare, which was wildly successful in socialist circles, entryism. And it basically ended with what the world got out of it is the Soviet Union, a complete, total takeover of a massive country. All they had to do is get in the lawmaker positions. A complete takeover of a successful people and country. And it worked because they used democratic rhetoric and alliances. This is where the dirty break happens. They get enough in, they get enough people in, and they basically say, fuck you and dump you, and you're locked. There is no way out of it. This is the perfected 20th century model of how this tactic worked. This is why I'm trying to get you to expand. I've already told you, forget the parties. Forget whether you're a Republican. Forget whether you're a Democrat or independent. None of that shit matters. I told you, and I've been telling you for a very long time, getting you to this point in understanding so you can actually see it. You can't just say it once or twice. You got to take people along the journey of education. That's why I'm a teacher. That's why I teach, so you can see and you can understand it, because this is what's happening in this process. What was the second one to fall? This is what destroyed and took all of Eastern Europe. From 1945 to 1948, right after World War II, communist parties in countries like Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Romania, and East Germany used the Popular Front. That is what this is. And they started forming coalitions. So they joined Democrat coalitions and socialist parties. And once they got in and they understood how the apparatus worked, they then took over the apparatus, right? Propaganda, security, etc. And then as soon as they got enough control, they got rid of the moderates, the people they used, and consolidated everything into one party rule. Yep. This is called the salami tactic, sticking the salami to the system. This is the communist coup that happened in 1948. Now you understand why I tell you voting and fixing our elections is the absolute freaking key. It's everything, everything. But this is what fell Eastern Europe. Where else? Well, it was also done in Italy. This Marxist in Italy, he did this. He got into it. His followers were intense from 1960s to 1980s. They weren't as successful, but what they did is they took over the universities, the media, the churches, and the center left. It wasn't a full government takeover in the sense that these others did, right? We're only talking the 60s through the 80s, but it worked enough to hobble a great country. Where else has this same tactic deployed? Well, this is how the world got Hugo Chavez. See, he ran as a moderate Bolivian. He was going to reform the Democrat system. What he did is he used the existing institutions. That's the apparatus. As he learned the apparatus, he built a parallel structure. They take over the councils. They get loyal in the military, the judicial system, everything. And once enough of them were in power, they said, fuck it. They kicked everybody out and took over. This is the 21st century example of how this happened. It is a repeated playbook over and over. Those aren't even the worst ones. This is how Hitler came into power in 1930. This is how Hitler came into power in the 1930s. This is how Hitler came into power in the 1930s. It is all about running in elections, not being what you say you are, forming coalitions, rounding up to your people, eventually kicking them out. Well, by the way, this was most recently practiced by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. They did the same thing. This is what happened with the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. This is it, folks. Everything you've been watching is this entryism tactic. Because what happens is you don't see it as it's happening. See, it's about total takeover. It's not about parties at all. It's not about whether you got, and it's parasitic. You're right. It's vampiric. That's what I compared it to. It's vampirism in politics. It's not about having a dominant party of Republicans or a dominant party of Dems. In fact, that's so fucking volatile. And they've got people, well, you're a Democrat, I hate you. Republican, I hate you. They've got us primed for this. And it's what comes in that vacuum that is the ultimate play. This is why I tell you, quit fucking chasing squirrels. Who gives a shit that somebody thinks if somebody wears red shoes, they're a pedo? Or somebody said 7 rays of light, they must be a Satanist. Synagogue of Satan. Infiltrate Antifa. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Because, see, what happened is people tend to mimic. There are people that are paid to do this. And then there are people out here that have never done anything meaningful in their life. They get behind a camera and, I'll just repeat that. And they start repeating it. They get a following. They think there's something great. They're total fucking idiots. And what they're really doing is working for the enemy, and they have no idea they're working for the enemy. What we're facing right now is absolutely the real enemy. It has come to pass. You watched it 100% in your fucking face, gone in New York City and now in Los Angeles. And you now watched it survive, not only elections, survive the primaries and get in. This is what's being done right now. This is why all this bullshit, save the kids, don't have guns, we don't have enough water, oh, fight this, fight that. They want us to fight everything except the total takeover of our country. And here we are. This is why I bring the crap to you, folks. I'm sorry for this one, but it is where we are. I'm hopping over to locals next. I'm doing a long-term series on Islam, and I'm about to destroy this religion of peace. And I'm going to explain to you the number one absolute proof of why there isn't a religion of peace. But I'm telling you, if you want to win this, you've got to focus on either America's going to survive or it's not. Nothing else is left. Not Republicans, not Dems. That's fucking over. It is our survival of our country. You have got to do several things. You've got to stop chasing all the squirrels, and you've got to begin to learn how this works, how to identify it, so you can push back on it. You have to. You've got to stop all this shit. It's Q drop. It's inside. We've got you covered. The military's doing, we really do. That is all part of this. Because they either get you fighting bullshit things that won't move the needle while they take over, or they convince you somebody else has got it so you don't fight to begin with. This is the fucking fight for our lives, folks. And we've got to get this right. It's time to cut the crap. Share this program. Watch for the tag at the end of the program where I give you my link, and we're going to talk some Muslim stuff next. Love you. Take care.
Rennie Good was a gifted soul, a writer and a poet and a mother. Wow, she tried to hit an agent with her car. Oh no, pop motherfucker, now she's gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with the septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. You fuck around and find out it's what it is. Jeffrey Pretty was a Jewish homo. Started talking shit to protect a chomo. He was getting nicked when he pulled a gun. Bam, motherfucker, now you're gone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Being a fucking liberal is a mental disease. Blue-haired and fuckables with a septum ring. You are not a hero, you're a fucking disease. Fuck around and find out what that is.
On Election Day 2026, insurgent candidate Spencer Pratt looked like he might flip Los Angeles to the Republicans, edging out socialist candidate Nydia Rahman, setting up a runoff between former communist turned Democrat incumbent Karen Bass and the Republican Pratt. But then something strange happened. After 5 days of counting extra ballots, the socialist Rahman came up with just enough ballots to overtake Pratt, meaning that no matter what happened in the runoff, a Democrat would continue to run LA into the ground. How did the Democrats do it? To answer that question, we need to take a trip down memory lane. The Democratic Party was founded in 1828. Shortly thereafter, party apparatuses such as Tammany Hall institutionalized election theft by stuffing ballot boxes, repeat voting, casting ballots for dead people, bribery, intimidation, absentee ballots, ballot harvesting, and importing voters from outside areas. An audit of a New York City election in 1868, for example, found that 16% of all votes cast were fraudulent, cooked up by Democrats in Tammany Hall. In 1948, Lyndon Johnson infamously stole a Texas Senate seat thanks to the drop of 202 late votes in ballot box 13, giving LBJ an 87-vote victory. That brazen election theft made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, which ultimately didn't want to get involved and washed its hands of the matter. As a result, LBJ went on to become vice president and then president of the United States. In 1994, Democrats tried to steal a state Senate seat in Pennsylvania. On Election Day, Republican Bruce Marks led Democrat William Stinson by over 500 votes. But the absentee ballots curiously went overwhelmingly for the Democrat, giving Stinson just enough votes to win overall. In that case, happily, a federal judge found that Philadelphia election officials had illegally delivered hundreds of absentee ballot packets directly to the Democrats, who in turn collected votes from people who were ineligible to cast votes when they weren't forging the votes outright. Democrats ran precisely the same absentee ballot playbook in 2003 in the East Chicago, Indiana mayor's race, fraud we know about only because the Indiana Supreme Court decided to get involved, ordering a new election, which the Democrat fraudster happily lost. Democrats' reliance on absentee ballot harvesting became so widespread, especially in states such as Illinois, Arkansas, and Georgia, that the 1982 Illinois elections resulted in 62 indictments and 58 convictions for election fraud, involving not only campaign workers, but precinct captains and election officials. In Chicago alone, a grand jury found that 100,000 fraudulent votes had been cast. But Chicago had already been a central hub of Democrat election theft for decades, most infamously exemplified by the 1960 presidential election, in which Robert Dallek, a biographer of both John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, concluded that Democrats, quote, probably stole Illinois from Nixon. In 2020, Democrat politicians infamously changed voter laws throughout the United States to increase absentee ballots and insecure ballot drop boxes, in some cases, such as Pennsylvania, in violation of the state constitution. Despite claims of perfectly secure elections, hundreds of Democrats over American history have been convicted over election fraud, and those convictions represent only a small percentage of cases, which represent only a small percentage of allegations of voter fraud widely acknowledged by historians and really by anyone with eyes. In Los Angeles, we see the same old story. A Republican defeated by the last-minute count of absentee ballots, cast without any solid chain of custody, often in ballot drop boxes without any election security. Those circumstances might all be perfectly legal, at least in a Democrat stronghold such as Gomorrah by the Sea. But we're still left with a simple question. If Democrats want us to believe there isn't any voter fraud, why do they keep expanding the use of all the same tricks they've used to steal elections for the past 200 years?
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I know the problem, you've got just one policy. You do the opposite of what the Donald does. Don't know what you believe just because you got that TDS. You've tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS. Open the borders, let Mamdani pick your pocket. Let the started. If you're left, you're blue and probably retarded. Like Rosie, De Niro, Jimmy Kimmel, Kathy Griffin. No kings, no kidding, we don't live in Great Britain. If J6 was the worst thing you've ever seen, Soros, burning Sadie's a mostly peaceful thing. Bring back the cartels, commute their crimes, sack the fact checkers like the New York Times. He's a Nazi, a fascist, a racist dictator who lets you say what you want to say.
Luke, I am your daddy.
You got that TDS. You tested positive. There's nothing I can do for chronic low IQ. It's TDS. No matter what he says, you must be really dumb, 'cause you keep blaming Trump for your problems.
Side effects of Trump derangement syndrome may include violent behavior, delusions, nightmares, insomnia, irrational hatred, hopelessness, anxiety, depression, blue hair, tantrums, inability to form coherent speech, difficulty maintaining gainful employment, and verbal diarrhea.
There's no cure in sight.